Good morning, Redeemer, and welcome to your daily word. We are in John chapter 10. Today it is Wednesday, June the 3rd, 2020. And Jesus really emphasizes that he's the good shepherd in today's chapter reading. And I want to point out three major keys that you can meditate on as you read through, and you can add to these as well as the Lord leads you through your study. The first thing is that there are 30 personal pronouns, 30. That I counted, maybe you can count a couple more, that Jesus uses when he's speaking in verses 1 all the way to verses 21. Now, that's not all. In verses 22 to verses 42, he's going to use 25 more. So there are 55 personal pronouns in which Jesus is referring to himself, I, me, my, and he is saying he's God. He's the good shepherd. He's in control. He lays his life down. No one takes it from him. He is loved by the Father. He's drawing lost sheep into his fold. And he is the only door, the only way into the fold. Beautiful picture as Jesus once again, over and over, as he does in John's gospel so often, puts a stake in the ground on who he is and what he not only came to do, but is still doing. So don't miss all those personal pronouns and Jesus explaining exactly who he is and what he came to do and is still doing. Number two, I want you to notice some of the contrasts. For example, in John chapter 10, verse 10, the thief comes only to steal, kill, and destroy, but I came that they may have life and have it more abundantly. Jesus stands completely opposite of the devil or the thief. Anyone who has come to destroy life, to lead people into deception, to lead people away from the truth, away from obedience, away from the gospel, away from grace, away from mercy. Jesus has come to give all those things, to save and rescue and redeem. That's a big contrast. Also, you should see the contrast between the good shepherd and the hireling. Verse 11, I'm the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. 12, he who is a hired hand and not a shepherd, who does not own the sheep, sees the wolf coming and leaves the sheep and flees, and the wolf snatches them and scatters them. He flees because he's a hired hand and cares nothing for the sheep. Now that is primarily about Jesus. Make no mistake about it. But I can't help but think of pastors as followers of Jesus, Jesus as the good shepherd modeling to his under shepherds, pastors, and seeing how he stands up for the flock. He loves the flock. He serves the flock. He protects the flock. And there are hirelings today who really aren't pastors. They're imposters. They don't care about you. They're really in ministry to make a paycheck or to have some notoriety or really to fulfill some personal desire. Like, man, I really just want to be a pastor. What they really want is to be in control or to be somebody. When being a shepherd is about being faithful to God's flock. There are a lot of pastors out there that will run for the hills at the first sign of controversy, conflict, opposition, or when times get hard. And then they say, well, I'm still called or I'm still a pastor, but those people, notice Jesus says, no, hirelings see all the danger and the troubles, they run for the hills. I'm the good shepherd. I lay my life down. I protect the flock. I believe an application for that is for us as pastors to see that and say, Lord, you have loved your sheep. We're not going to do it perfectly. We're going to do it sinfully. We're nowhere on your level and never will be on your level. But goodness, you have set the bar. And the bar is loyalty. The bar is faithfulness. The bar is commitment. The bar is leaning on you because you're the good shepherd. I can follow your example as an under shepherd. And I'm thankful that at Redeemer, we have pastors that are committed to this bride, committed to the church, committed to faithfully loving and serving. And again, we're going to do that imperfectly because there's no way we're ever going to reach the standard of Christ. But it doesn't mean we stop striving in grace to follow his model. But again, this is about Jesus, but I'm just using that as an application to encourage you today and make sure you are expecting pastors who hold the line and follow Jesus. Some more points that I want you to notice is what sheep do. What sheep do. In verses 22 there to 31, at the time the Feast of Dedication took place in Jerusalem, it was winter. Jesus is walking in the temple in the colonnade of Solomon. So the Jews gathered around him and said to him, how long will you keep us in suspense? If you are the Christ, tell us plainly. Listen to this. Verse 25, Jesus answered them, I told you, and you do not believe. The works that I do in my Father's name bear witness about me. But you do not believe because you are not among my sheep. Whew, that's powerful. You don't believe because you're not among my sheep. My sheep hear my voice. I know them and they follow me. I'm struck by the imagery in Matthew 7 when Jesus will tell people one day, depart from me, I never knew you, you who practice lawlessness. Talking to Pastor Daryl today about his Sermon on the Mount study. And he was explaining there in the Greek grammar, it's I don't know you and you don't know me. It's really a broken relationship. Jesus saying both. You don't know me and I definitely don't know you. His sheep know him. His sheep hear his voice. His sheep follow. I give them eternal life, he says, and they will never perish. No one will snatch them out of my hand. You know, no one can steal your salvation. And here's another great truth that an older, wiser pastor once told me. He said, Costi, sheep are never goats, and goats don't turn into sheep. Sheep are sheep. And what he meant was, there are lost sheep out there. Jesus says, I have other sheep, I must bring them. And like me and you, so many are lost and they're just grazing through life and they're going about their way. But one day they will hear the shepherd's voice. They're going to hear the gospel. They're going to hear about eternal life. And they're going to lift their head and they're going to turn and follow Jesus. And you know that's happened to you if you're a believer. I know that's happened to me. Goats don't turn to sheep. Sheep are sheep. That means God knew you before. It's not like he changed you from something you never were. You were lost. You're one of his. And then he calls you by name. And so what's an application there? Well, first of all, if God is the one who saves and he's the one who determined who's a sheep and who's going to come, well, then that means if he's the one who brought you and saved you, then nothing can snatch you from that. If he's got you, he's got you. Nothing else can have you. Not only that, it's an encouragement for us to keep putting the gospel in front of people, because at any given moment, we don't know who's a sheep. We don't know who's a goat. We don't know who's going to be saved. We don't know who's going to reject. God does. But here's the deal. Our job is to put the gospel in front of people. And so how exciting is it to think that a sheep one day could hear the shepherd's voice because of your faithfulness to Romans 10:17. Faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of Christ. And so, yes, we're going to sin. Yes, we're going to forget. Yes, we're going to get selfish. And yes, we're going to miss the boat so often on the standard that Christ walked with. However, we're still to strive in grace, to lead like him, to love like him, and to trust that he's going to save people. So what do we want to be doing? We want to be putting the gospel in front of those people. So today, make it a goal. Give someone the gospel. Share with them personally. Share a sermon. Share a verse. Share encouragement. Pick up the phone. Grab a coffee. If you're social distancing, do a Zoom meeting. Whatever it takes. The gospel. That's why we're still here. And wait and see expectantly as the Lord uses you to turn another one of his sheep from being lost and grazing on their own to following his voice.